Welcome to episode number 14 of the Making Moves podcast, where we talk relocating and real estate in the Dominican Republic. I'm your host, Josie Sells DR, and I am so excited for today's episode. We are filming at, honestly, one of my favorite places on planet Earth, Playa Encuentro. As you can see behind me, this is actually the surf capital of the Caribbean, and this is the place that made me fall in love with the Dominican Republic and ultimately decide to live here. So I want to give a quick shout out before we start this episode to Johnny and Claudia from Pura Vida. This is a beautiful little cafe directly on the beach. Everyone loves it because you can go straight from the waves to a table here, grab a fresh juice, a coffee, breakfast, lunch. Sundays, they have a DJ here. It's always good vibes at Pura Vida. So thank you, Johnny and Claudia. They serve the whole team breakfast. And we have the whole team here today, which is really, really cool. Okay. Let's introduce today's guest. Somebody who probably knows this beach better than any of us. You're like the king of Encuentro, Mr. Manuel Selman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Can you just start off by introducing yourself and telling us where you came from and what brought you to the DR?
Well, my name is Manuel Selman. I'm originally from Chile, and I grew up here in Encuentro pretty much. We moved here in 2001. My parents came for vacations and they just fell in love with the place. Year after year, they kept coming here. And in 2000, my dad came back from a trip and he said, I looked at schools, I bought land. I'm going to sell the company. We're going to sell the house. We're moving to the DR. And
wow. How old were you?
I was 11, turning 12.
11. Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy. And
yeah.
so you've been here ever since?
Yes. Yeah, since January 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so let's talk about some of your accomplishments, which are extremely impressive. So you are a Pan-American champion, a Latin American champion, the Cabarete Pro champion.
Yeah.
I was there to witness that one. It was so cool. You won the trials for the WCT. What's the WCT?
WCT was, so there's the World Tour, the WSL World Tour.
Uh-huh.
It used to be the ASP, it was ASP and now it became WSL.
Ah, okay.
It's the old WSL.
Old WSL.
And they used to have one event on tour that was called the Ripple Search. And they would do, every year they would do one event in different locations. And they did that year in Chile.
In Chile.
So I got to serve the trials, win and surf against Kelly and Andy
Really?
Irons.
No
and
way.
yeah, it was pretty rad.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the biggest being your Olympic qualification.
Yes.
Yeah, the amount of like just discipline and everything that goes into that is crazy. It's probably like you've probably spent more time in the water than on land in your entire life. Like you're basically a
Since I started surfing, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so let's take it back to like where it all began. How old were you when you first started surfing?
I was 11 when I moved. Yeah, when I moved here. Yeah, I learned to surf here in Encuentro.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. It's crazy because you see like now in Encuentro, there's like 3 and 4-year-olds out there on surfboards taking lessons. So imagine if you would have started when you were 3 or 4.
Oh my God, I would have loved it. And yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like when you think of surfing, like most people think of like Hawaii or Australia or Costa Rica as like the world-class surfing, but the DR has like slowly become this hotspot for it, and now it's been named the surf capital of the Caribbean, right? So tell us about, the surf community here specifically and what makes it unique and beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, the DR has like so many good waves all around the island that we still haven't explored, I mean, we have explored, but it's just so much more consistent, this area of the coast, that we get a little spoiled and we just want to surf around here, around your house. And it is actually the most consistent around the whole island. But yeah, a lot of people, when I'm traveling, I'm like, yeah, so how's Chile? I'm like, well, I don't live in Chile. Like, I live in the DR. Really? There's waves there? Like, people don't even imagine the kind of waves we got. Right. And a lot of the guys who came for the QS were like, wow, you guys really have these good waves. And I was like, yeah, we grew up surfing all these really good waves, and a lot of people don't know it. And I think with more exposure, I think the DR is becoming one of the top destinations for surfing. Like forever it's been Puerto Rico for all East Coasters to go. And And I think the north coast of the Dominican Republic is competing with that right now. And the QS put us in a map, especially since the waves were really good. But I don't know. We don't want to get it too crowded.
A little bit of a hidden gem for sure. Yeah. But now there's all these surf shacks set up. Like you can just come here, rent the board, take a lesson. So convenient. So for the surfers out there who may not know about Encuentro, like you were just saying, describe like the beach and the waves here, specifically in Encuentro.
I mean, Encuentro, what's special about it is because it's a top best single wave where it's good for every type of surfer. For a beginner, it's small days like this is just perfect for giving lessons. Even when it's big, you have a long run of like white waters. So it's still a really good place for beginners, for intermediate surfers. And when it gets big and there's barrels, it's a world-class wave for professional surfers. So it's
a reef break, right?
Yeah, there's not many waves in the world where you can have all type of surfers the same day out in the water, and it's great conditions for beginners, intermediate, and professional surfers. I've traveled around the world. There's not many places. If you go to Indo, you will get trashed. It's not like a easier section for a beginner. Right. If you go and surf Uluwatu, maybe on high tide, it's a better way for beginners, and then low tide is experts only. But here you can have all type of surfers all year round.
Well, and you have Coco Pipe.
Yeah.
And then you have
Bubbles Point, then the right, then the left. And you also have all different type of waves within
one beach.
One beach, exactly. And it's also good for kiting and winging and foiling. So it's like, I would say only Hawaii and here, there are only two places where you can do all 5 spots in one beach. Yeah.
One day.
Yeah. Cool. And it's also the same, good for beginners, experience, and pros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. So what advice would you give to someone as an Olympic athlete or, younger kids who dream of becoming, a successful surfer like you? Because there's so many kids out here that, they dream of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, success, I don't measure about winning events and how many titles I got. I think success to me is more like being able to do what I love without needing a second job. Like I have pro surfer friends who have to have a second job to actually be able to do the tour. And to me, success is just to be able to live from what I do, from literally surfing. And I think here is like a great training grounds for kids to reach their maximum potential. And I think it's all about consistency, and surfing is a sport where you're going to lose a lot more than you're going to win. But every loss, you got to mentally take it to get better, because I've known so many people who get into a losing streak and they're like, I'm losing all this money, and like mentally they're not strong enough to keep going. And I think that's one of the advantages I've had, that every loss was like, okay, why did I lose? Look deep into it. And I think that's what kids need nowadays, like to be mentally strong and like, okay, I lost because of this, and learn from it and work on it and come better the next event. And it's all about practice, and then you're going to get improvement. Like, practice is not perfection. How they always say, practice makes perfection. Perfection doesn't exist, especially in surfing. When sometimes it doesn't come down to your skills, it comes down to reading the ocean, and it's not an equal playing field.
It's such a complex sport.
Yeah, many times you could be the better surfer, but if you don't get the waves, you're not gonna make your heat. So I think you gotta be mentally strong and take every loss and learn from it to keep improving.
Patience, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's cool because now we have Parallel.
Right.
Yeah, which is a new little dryland surf training facility right here in Encuentro, which is really cool. So I mean, how big is that for?
Oh, it's huge. I wish when I was a kid, I had that. Like when I was a kid, all we had, it was like a couple little shacks here, and all we did was just surf, and we just got good at surfing because we were surfing all day.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any of the tools that kids have now here, especially here, which is all pretty new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. So I know you're constantly traveling all over the world. Do you even know like how many countries you've been to?
Wow. I would say in the 30s,
In the
probably.
30s.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you've seen the world, you've been around. And after surfing, every wave, immersing yourself in all these different cultures, having all these experiences, why the DR? Like, why is this still your home base?
I mean, honestly, after traveling for so long, I like every time I go to a place, I'm like, wow, the more I was traveling when I was like 16, 17, 20s, I realized how special Cabarete is and how good it is. I mean, I've been to so many places in the world, and it always draws me back to how special Cabarete is. The more I travel, I was realizing how cool this place was, and the type of waves we have, and how, again, people were surprised that there's good waves here.
Yeah. And the community is just,
Yeah, community is everything. It's just small surf town, and everybody's nice. There's no localism here, really, and I think that's one of the parts that makes Cabaret and the DR so special.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%. Awesome. And how have you seen, like, you've been here for how many years now?
22, 23?
So how have you seen the North Coast as a whole, like as far as, infrastructure, development, real estate, community? How have you seen that grow?
I mean, it's been slowly growing until the last 6 years, where it kind of like exploded more. Like it's more of a boom in the last 6 years. But I think it's growing, like, I would say, kind of like organically. It's not like big giant hotels everywhere. It's slowly growing, but in the last 5 years, it's growing pretty fast. Yeah.
Boom for sure. Okay, describe the moment that I think everyone in the audience saw when you won the Cabarete Pro at the WSL. That was like goosebumps, such an epic moment.
Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty surreal because I've been doing the QS for 15, 17 years, and it was very special to me to actually win my first one here in the DR. And I always pictured it. I always said, like, if there was a QS here, I'm sure I would win it.
Yes, I love that. You manifested it.
Yeah, no, and I believed it so much that it was like, when it happened, it was like, dang it, I knew it. I knew it. Why didn't it have one before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now the tour is split into regions, and before it used to be like one world ranking,
Right.
and I wish that contest was when it was one world ranking. But yeah, I was part of the South American region, which now I moved back to the North American region just because we have the QS here. But man, I wish that contest was before. But that moment when I won, it was like, I don't know. I'm not a very emotional person. Every time I won big things, big events, I'm not like crazy emotional about it.
Right.
It was more like, oh, finally, it was about time. Kind of, it's like, it's almost like a relief than like,
Those are the waves you grew up surfing, right? That's where you learned everything you know.
Yeah,
So
but
I can imagine how
it was a special moment in front of the home crowd, all my friends, all my family.
that day was, those waves on that day were crazy.
Yeah.
They were huge. It was raining. It was like,
Yeah, both events we've had a bit of everything. So
Yeah.
it's been, I think local knowledge pays off.
totally. Okay, what were your fondest memories outside of surfing growing up here?
Growing up here? Well, honestly, we used to take this little road and we just ride a scooter from Perla Marina to here, and we would just surf all the waves around, and I don't know, just growing up on the beach, like, because I also did grow up in Chile, and it's different, like, oh, I'm going here, you gotta ask for permission, and here you have a bit more freedom, it's safe. Like, yeah, we were kids just running around, and there was like nothing really to be worried about, and I think that was it. Having the freedom to just go to the beach and run around and do what we wanted to do. I don't know, just surfing all day.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Amazing. So yeah, this was like our first time actually having a conversation. Obviously, I knew who you were and all your accomplishments. It was nice to just sit down with you and learn more about you. Thank you so much for being here and
Thanks for having me
with us. Of course. We're proud as a brokerage at RealtorDR to, have you as part of our community. So I want to invite Brett and Bobby up here. We just have something to give to you.
Yeah.
Manuel, I know you said that you pictured winning a bunch of times before it actually happened, but now you actually have the picture that I think describes how you're feeling there. And being a part of the community, we're all so proud of you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so
We
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's sick.